So I do want to thank everybody for coming in, of all the craziness on the floor and grabbing beer and worrying about snowstorms and all the other activities. Thank you for taking a moment out of the time. Very, very excited about how this conference is growing every year. I remember back in the days when it was up the street in a back room, it was like 30 people showing up. Now it's grown and split off from that hotel and keeps growing and growing and growing from there. So very, very excited on how this now officially a conference, what has been the last 2 years, it's officially going into a conference, just being from a bunch of people drinking beer, doing a bunch like, hard seltzer. So who am I? So the history of hard seltzers. Yes, there's a history. Yes, I love doing research. A lot of people are like, there's a history of hard seltzers? And what's great is having adults in the room. Not that my students aren't adults, but normally most of my students I teach are 20 and 21 years old. So some of the things I'm going to talk about to them is ancient history. Like they don't even know about these products. And I say to them, go talk to your parents. So they probably met over drinking some of these things. So who am I? I teach to support my bad habits, beer and barbecue. I suffer at barbecue. Someday I'll make some good brisket, some good burnt ends. Someday. So that's why I teach. But I'm an industry vet. I've been in the hospitality industry, teaching industry 35 years. I've lived 26 locations. I've worked for Four Seasons, Marriott, Independence, Up, Down, Food and Beverage, all around. I taught 8 years at the Culinary Institute of America. Back when I had this crazy idea of starting a brewery, and then came along with Hooch and made us all look professional. With the support of Brooklyn Brewery, like, wow, you look kind of cool. Now I currently teach at Cornell University. I teach beer appreciation, so I have about 60 students. Yesterday I did an IPA tasting with them. Next week we'll do Belgium, we'll do England, we'll do other sorts of tastings. I did a fall tasting with them. Want to see a bunch of college kids now to take a double sip on the beer? Do a fall tasting with them. They didn't like the metallic so much. And I also teach restaurant management. So how did this start? I started thinking, like, gosh, what was the history of hard seltzer? Where did we go back to? I traced the roots back to roughly the 30s. We had this product out in the marketplace, which is totally illegal to make today. Totally cannot advertise today. This was the Schlitz product, Sunshine Vitamin D beer. A sip of sunshine in every can. Right? I was sitting on the SLA presentation earlier today. Trust me, they would say you cannot do this today. Because this makes a health claim. This purely makes, and plus, who knows if it truly was healthy for you? Who knows how much vitamin D was in it? My guess, probably the alcohol, well, you get filled up on the carbonation before any benefits of vitamin D would kick in. Plus, you probably passed out on the floor. So the vitamin D probably was not benefit, but who cared? Not really successful in the marketplace. The old can, back then, the crown containers with the old can top on it, predating today's beer can, which really didn't start with the stay attached proper onto the mid-70s. San Antonio Express, 1970. These are old ads I look at, older newspapers, a little hard to read the back, but a lime lager. They used to make a lager beer with lime in it. We started seeing in the late 60s and early 70s a push to add flavors to lager beer. And this is a brewery releasing a lime lager. Of course, some people think, particularly the Corona brand, you add a lime to it. And they've had lime margaritas, brand extensions more recently, but it dates back, really dates back 50 years. Early 70s, Malt Duck. You may hear of Malt Duck. This is a product long gone. It is this super premium beer made with blending unfermented concentrate of red grapes. They're making a beer and adding red grape concentrate. Malt Duck. They also had a couple of different brand extensions, a couple of different flavor profiles of this. You do see a lot of advertisement of this product in the early mid-70s. Pops up in quite a few advertisements. But you can make the argument, is this a forefather of hard seltzer? neutral flavor base with the addition of grape juice. So it tastes kind of like a wine. Hoppin' Gator. This is another great product. So Gatorade started in Florida. Originally it was a lot brinier and saltier than it is today because it was a replacement flavored beverage for pickle juice that was widely consumed by athletes for electrolytes. So Iron City Beer Company in Pittsburgh teamed up with the original founder of Gatorade to release a beer that was lager and Gatorade. Take a moment and think about that. Lager and Gatorade. While the product was, they actually got sued for the name. Products market, it never really took off. It got some hits in Florida, but it was on the market about 6-7 years before it was launched. So again, you've had this continual history of adding flavor to a neutral-based fermented product, and announcing the invention of an incredible new drink. Because we all know that marketing is part of the game. Your first one will never know what hit it. Like, you need this in your life. Obviously, consumers felt otherwise, because the product did disappear from the marketplace. The cans are highly valuable for those who are can collectors, because there's not a lot of them floating around. And then we moved on to like minty Schlitz. Maybe next entry in the kiddie beer market, so you also started seeing pushback because the word kids or kiddies are targeting young drinkers start popping up in the marketplace. So this is another example of adding flavor to a beer, and this was minty Schlitz. Schlitz, at this point in time, huge brewery. A lot of marketing behind it. One of the largest breweries in the United States during this time frame that had the marketing engine behind it was not successful. Then there's this other product. And so other great thing about you.
When that special someone comes your way, let those champagne moments fill your day. Make love happen every time you get together.
Champagne tastes like a light, bubbly wine. Something like champagne without the high price tag.
Share those special moments with sparkling champagne.
The sparkling malt liquor from Iroquois brand.
This is so much fun on YouTube. So champagne. Champagne goes back to the late 30s, moving out of our days of prohibition. Sparkling malted beer brewed with champagne yeast. Today we call that experimental if you enter that into Great American Beer Festival or whatever. But they added champagne. Why? I don't know why they decided to do it. The whole idea was making a product that was fermented malt-based, and the whole tagline was essentially champagne on a beer budget. During the time frame, typically the 50s, 60s, and 70s, we looked at beer as a commodity. We didn't necessarily look at it for flavor, we looked at it as a commodity. You see it in a lot of ways of advertising. If you look at the advertising, for example, the Miller Lite advertising, Budweiser, the Clydesdale advertising, Miller advertising, Peter advertising, they didn't talk about flavor, they talked about lifestyle. It was a lifestyle beverage. And if you want to live the lifestyle of a champagne drinker, bougie, this you can drink at affordable price. And that was the birth of champagne. And they did have pink champagne that came out that popped up on television. Like there's a episode of Sanford and Son was drinking champagne on an airline flight. And the reason why I bring these things up is when you start to see things pop up in pop culture, you know it's part of society. Because how would people know what that reference is on a television show if people weren't readily drinking it? And you saw a wide range of different advertising all over the country, and a very large ad budget. Another way that you know it becomes part of society is when things started popping up in recipes. So you could, and this is funny, because it's the Bridge Club punch. Must be sophisticated. So 2 packages, quick frozen mixed fruit, half a cup of honey, 1 can of frozen lemonade, remember cans of frozen lemonade, 2 cans of frozen orange juice, the lovely cans, ice cubes, garnished with whole strawberries, lemon slices, cut in quarters, and 12 bottles of champagne. Let me tell you, these ladies were playing some bridge. It was punch, which has been very, very popular. The other one from a newspaper in Indianapolis is basically a wafer, a cookie, or a cracker, if you will, with champagne in the mixture. The sneaky suspicion, this was being pushed by the liquor brand Iroquois, because when you look up this time frame, you see this pop up in multiple newspapers. So I think they were utilizing it as a vehicle to advertise the brand. It's not like it was a one-off creation. I think it was back in the days of when the AP was really big, and you'd see articles pop up in 12, 15, 20, 30 locations all over the country at the same time. That's what I think these recipes were, just brand extension. But again, if people didn't know what the product was, they wouldn't get the recipe. I just see lovely old ladies going to their own local beer store. You got any champagne? We're having punch this weekend. And then, now we're getting to some time frames that some of you might remember.
Hello there, my name is Frank Bartles, and this is Ed James. You know, it occurred to Ed the other day that between his fruit orchard and my premium wine vineyard, we could make a truly superior premium grade wine cooler. It sounded good to me, so Ed took out a second on his house and wrote to Harvard for an MBA, and now we're preparing to enter the wine cooler business. We will try to keep you posted on how it's going. Thank you very much for your support.
What's that? You're named after that? J-Y-N-E-S. Oh, you had wine coolers. You used to drink wine coolers. Why do we drink them? It was easy. Why else do we drink them?
It's not offensive to anyone.
Advertised the living daylights. This is actually one of the greatest alcohol ad campaigns ever. It was astronomical in success, and the multiple commercials and print ad in the 80s around just this plain, simple ad. Just all their ads are that simple. Otherwise, we drank them, it's because of flavor. Right? It's not the product is still around. Back then, it was a wine cooler. Today, they're malt-based, but they're still in the marketplace. I don't know when they switched from wine-based to malt-based, but it's owned by a very large wine company, actually one of the largest in the United States. But a lot of reasons why is convenience and flavor. And we enjoy like, ooh, what are you drinking? And it was a huge success. Success started fading because we started realizing like all the sugar in it and how we felt after drinking a 4-pack or an 8-pack of them. We woke up the next morning with a sugar hangover, and then we started switching. Something's different. Zima hits the marketplace. Zima had somewhat success, but it was trouble due to its marketing ad campaign. Never really got traction, but it was crystal clear. It had the ridge bottle. It started being like as an elevated beverage, not drinking beer, I'm drinking Zima. It's something different. All the ads had a Z in it, and it started rising in popularity. It had an identity crisis, and they tried to overcome it. Identity crisis was it targeting women or was it targeting men? And they really, from an advertising standpoint, never figured that out. And it kind of sat in the middle, and that's why it ended up disappearing. It came back for a brief moment about 5 years ago. They relaunched it just as a one-off, but it's completely was not successful, even after spending a lot of money in the ad campaign. Product from, actually they were making it in Memphis, Tennessee, because they also had Miller Clear. Miller Clear was at the same time frame. This was also the same time frame that we're gravitating towards clear beverages. So there's Pepsi Clear, Plus also we had clear toothpaste. So there was a time frame in the early 90s where we had this association of clear being purity and quality. So you started seeing clear in multiple different areas beyond just alcohol beverages. Miller Clear never really launched. It was really, never really got that much traction. Then it disappeared from the marketplace, kind of. Because one of the arguments I make is Zima a hard seltzer. It fits all the criteria. It fits everything. Miller Clear, is that a hard seltzer? It fits all the different categories. Hooch was an English beverage. Very, very, very controversial. Because, again, was it targeting the kids? And the British government was looking to ban it. But that press started carrying over into the United States. And there's that long push-pull of fruit flavors. These fruit flavors equate to underage drinking. There's been a long push and pull of that, where typical beer is more for adults, where these flavored products are then more towards kids. Alco Pops, Bacardi Breeze, Smirnoff Ice, brand extension. These products are really help to push the Smirnoff name and the Bacardi name, particularly in states like New York State, where you can't buy distilled spirits the same place that you buy beer. So how do you get people thinking about Smirnoff in a beer store? You release Smirnoff Ice. Today that exists. In a lot of beer stores, you have Fireball. And that's a brand extension of the Fireball whiskey, where it is a malted beverage, and that's why they typically put it on the counter at checkout, just for that brand hit that makes you thinking about Fireball as a brand extension. That's what both these products were simply brand extension. Flavors, this is when you start seeing the term Alco Pop start being coined, popping up in the marketplace. And they had some success. Smirnoff Ice had a thing called icing. Icing was, somebody remember icing? Icing was the bros drinking. Like if I hit your beer, I iced you, which means you had to chug. If you didn't do it, you had to do some random act. You started seeing pop up on Wall Street. You started seeing popping up in offices at random times, where you could defend yourself. So people had defense kits from being iced. It became, I mean, you see it popping up in newspapers. The Post writes about it, about getting iced in the office place, and how that's creating issues in the workplace. And then you have beer means caffeine, B to the E. Otherwise, they make an energy beer. Moonshot is quite, first in the marketplace. Sparks, and then of course, make the argument. It's a hard seltzer. Caused a lot of issues. There's a lot of press on it. In New York State, it was never officially banned. Because they're fear if they ban this, would Kahlua be banned? Because Kahlua has caffeine in it. So there was a lot of talk about banning caffeine and alcohol. So what they did is they banned the distribution of the product. They didn't officially ban the product itself. So it's basically end around. You started seeing other locales do that. Grad students from Ohio State University are the ones who started this. It's still in the marketplace today. We formulated not as much alcohol. Caffeine is a lot less, actually stripped out. But Four Loko is another forerunner to me of hard seltzer. We were drinking it for the alcohol content. We were drinking it for the flavor. It didn't matter how it was made. It was all about flavor. Some other examples. Mike's Hard originally started in Canada by Mark Anthony Brands. And then he came to the United States. Twisted from our friends up in Boston, Boston Beer Company, aka people make St. Adams. They had the Twisted Tea and Lemonade brand extensions. Again, hard seltzers. Basically hard seltzers. Small town brewery, not your father's root beer. This hit the market big. I mean, one of the ways I look at consumer behavior and purchasing is how they placed in grocery stores. When you have a grocery store, drop on a pallet of a product in a section, you know they're moving because they look at sales per square foot. And if you see 1 or 2 pallets of any product, you know they're moving. In grocery stores, particularly in New York State, they would drop a pallet, they would clear it in a couple of days. It started in Illinois. Some controversy behind this product. He said it was a family recipe from the 16th century that contained cinnamon and vanilla. There's also questioned. Original is like 18% alcohol. But everybody's like, I think at 18%. Suspicion that maybe alcohol is being added to the product, even though he claimed otherwise, because as we know, it's really hard to get 18% utilizing straight yeast. It takes a lot of skill. So there's theories, maybe, but nobody knows for sure. But it was big. The problem with this product is everybody got burned down on it. Because I remember, yeah, you get a 6-pack. Yeah, get a 6-pack. Yeah. Because it was heavy. It was sweet. It'd fill you up. So it got a lot of traction. It hit hard. Eventually sold to Past Brewery Holdings, PBR. Now currently owns it, and it's still in the marketplace. You still see the marketplace, you'll see beer stores. Instead of being dropped by the pallet, it gets like a single row of shelf space. Brand extension, got different flavors, got creamsicle. Other companies got in the game. Everybody got in the game. Miller came out with their root beer flavor. Henry's was another one that had a brand extension of root beer flavor. So this is all the rage. Just a brief 10 years ago. Just 10 years ago. Also, sparkling water. Why bring this up? A lot of today's younger consumers were trained on drinking sparkling water. I had to say this, I was a certain age. If you wanted water, you got to the tap. And if you had a Perrier, you're like, whoa! This younger generation, clearly Canadian, LaCroix, Poland Spring. In fact, we have a former reporter in Rochester. We did a whole story on different flavored waters. And so they got accustomed to drinking sparkling flavored water. It is something that they're accustomed to. We're younger generations, we're not used to drinking as much of a neutral flavored water. If that's something sparkling, it's not alcoholic, it would be your traditional Coke or Pepsi or Dr. Pepper, etc. So they were trained on this. Canned alcohol beverages, WineBased. Because one thing to keep in mind, there is no legal definition of hard seltzer. It does not exist. Everybody's calling it, so there's wine-based hard seltzers out there. There's alcohol-based hard seltzers out there. There is obviously ready-to-drink cocktails. A lot of them are brand extending off that name. There is no legal definition of what a hard seltzer is. How hard seltzer gets classified is based off of how is the alcohol being generated. So is it wine, grape-based, falls under a certain set of laws. If it's sugar-based, another set of laws. Barley, another set of laws. I'll talk about that. And then distilled spirits is another set of laws. So there's no legal definition. But consumers do not know that. So that's why, looking at technology, how do we get here? Technology is a beautiful thing. These are several patents that came out that made it easier to strip out color. In fact, you strip out gluten. Make a neutral fermented base. Because across the United States, in New York State's example, it's much easier to sell a product that is fermented by grain than it is distilled spirits. Well, if I can come up with technology, charcoal filter and membrane filter, and strip everything out, now I have a neutral base, and now I can add flavor to it. And I can dial in my different types of flavors. Then our friends at TTB. Well, they kind of screwed things up a little bit. The reason why I say that, this is where you start seeing IRC beer versus malted beverage. You might know the difference between IRC beer and malted beverage. Because there's a very distinct difference in this product. So, what we mostly consider beer is a malted beverage under TTB rules. IRC beer, Internal Revenue Code beer, is where a lot of hard seltzers legally fall under. There are some that fall under malted beverage, and there's some similarities, content, name of product, manufacturer location, but then there's a whole host of different things. The big difference is this side. Because what the IRS said, because again it's an RSC beer, is that it does not fall under the rules of TTB, it falls under the rules of the FDA. Well, the FDA has a different set of rules for beverages than TTB. So TTB, well, a lot of legally under TTB laws, you do not have to list alcohol content. That's a state law. TTB rules, you do not have to currently, although it might change in a couple of years, you do not have to list ingredients. Don't have to list ingredients. IRC beer, you have to list ingredients. Major allergens listed, like gluten-free. No pre-clearance of labels. No pre-clearance of labels. If it's above 7%, you have to have cartel names. Nutrient content claim, you cannot do a health claim, but you can dance around it. So it's a lot easier. Plus, you have to have nutritional labeling, such as calories and carbohydrates, which gives you labels like this. With antioxidant. It goes back to the vitamin D C beer. It just lets it permeate in your head. Ooh, antioxidants. Must be better for you. It didn't say it was better for you, because the legally cannot say that. It just says that and let your mind take it from there. It has 100 calories, big and bold. Well, as I tell my students, the same portion size for Guinness is 125 calories. So the only difference is 25 calories. If you're really worried about that 25 calories, should you be drinking alcohol in general? But we have this mindset of 100 calories as meaning it's healthier than. And anyway, if you drink a 6-pack of these, calories are relative. Also does outside the box. You have the box, and you have outside the box. This inside the box, you have to list the carbohydrates, things of that nature. Outside the box, sparkling water, cane sugar, natural flavor pineapple juice, concentrate, citric acid, sodium citrate, dried, I was butcher this, I think it's Isolia cherry juice, which is supposed to be high in oxidants, and it's supposed to be like, it's not like that Isolia cherry juice, it's not that it's supposed to be. I want that product. Never said it was healthy for you, just kind of wants to permeate out there. So this would be an IRC product. It's made from sugar. And it allows you more liberties when it comes to your packaging and marketing compared to if you're grain-based and you're a malted beverage. One thing about these products is they cannot be, they have to have alcohol. You cannot have them alcohol free. There's one stipulation in them, so they have to have some type of alcohol in it. We got to see things like, ooh, 20% vitamin C, yeah. No, there's better ways to get your vitamin C. Eat an orange. This is the first product we start seeing Spiked Seltzer as a name. The product launched in Connecticut. It's actually made, it's a local product. A lot of production is done down the canal, down in Utica, and that brewing company. It's the first time we see Spiked Seltzer. Its name gets changed to Bon Viv when it was bought out. He started it in his garage, and he was looking at how people were purchasing alcohol. He was looking at it in an article, he was saying, yeah, I was asking women what they like to drink, and they're like, they're drinking vodka and soda water. He'd ask them why. Well, it's fruity, squeeze a lime, it's neutral, it's easy to drink, etc. Then he started to truly hit the marketplace, and then the game changer. This was the game changer. So, Mark Anthony Brands. Why is it called Mark Anthony Brands? There is no Mark Anthony. The reason why Anthony Vandermal, who's one of the richest men in Canada, he's also the person that brought us Spiked Lemonade. He named the company because it's something you're kind of familiar with, but you can't quite figure it out. That's why it is Mark Anthony Brands. He's brilliant in marketing. Very recluse too. Does not do a lot of interviews. Brilliant in marketing. Guerrilla marketing. They didn't have an official ad campaign until what, 2 years ago? They finally started advertising on television and print. But yet this product took off. This product took off like wildfire because consumers were open to this. Ain't no laws for drinking cloths. 6 million views on YouTube. It hit social media because now we have this new form of advertising. I didn't need an ad campaign. I didn't need to go through your traditional Madison Avenue to put together some slick ad campaign. I had this new thing called social media. So I can do guerrilla marketing. I get people to advertise for me, and I don't have to spend a dime. And this is much more powerful advertising than putting a slick in a magazine, which at this time were dying or dead, or print media, and having forbid television because that's money to afford to advertise on television. It started taking over pop culture. People started drinking it. They didn't even know what they're drinking. What are you drinking? I'm drinking a Claw. Why are you drinking a Claw? I don't know. I'm drinking a White Claw. Ain't no laws. Yeah. It's a great video because he just talks about just chilling and drinking. And it's all about flavor. It's all about convenience. It doesn't talk about how it's made or what's in it. It's flavor, it's convenient, you're hip, you're cool, you post it with your phone, with social media, you're like, get the can out, and you do one of these. And then your friends are like, oh yeah, I want one of those. What is that? It's Claw. You don't know Claws? No, I don't know Claws. Drink it. Okay. This was the game changer. This is when it really started taking off in the marketplace, and people started gravitating to it. Flavors. We've grown up drinking products that are clear. We've grown up drinking highly carbonated beverages. And plus, we started thinking of, gee, you know, beer fills you up. This doesn't fill you up. This is healthier for you. 100 calories, 125 calories a minute. This is healthier for you. This is why you need to drink it. Even though, talking about minuscule difference in health benefits, again, if you're worried about that, probably should not be drinking. And how big is the industry? So this is IRI data. Chain, grocery, convenience, and other retail stores. So pretty much everything off-premise is now put on-premise. You look at White Claw, looks like White Claw might have peaked. The reason why the dates are different, it's basically all year-end. It's just basically the data's old because the data is ever-changing and evolving. But when you look at some products, Bud Light, favorite malt beverage, starts at 203, I don't know why that shows like that, but look how fast it grew. Look how fast and it started feeding itself. It started feeding the beast. And you started having these large companies get into the game. And these large companies have advertising dollars. They can afford television. They can do print. They can do such things as giveaways. They can do other types of things where they can afford to lose a little bit of money on it to get it out there. Corona, Vizzy, Michelob Ultra, which under those lists is different. Topo Chico is just blowing up. Just blowing up. You can't see what its latest figures are because its numbers are skyrocketing. Mike's Hard Seltzer, aka Mike's Hard Lemonade, Cacti, which is no longer being made, that's been discontinued, Smirnoff Spike, and Bud Light Premium. So who's on this list? AB InBev, Miller Coors. We also have in there Constellation Brands. Other players in this game is Smirnoff is the same people that actually own Guinness, Diageo. So Diageo's in the game. So all your largest alcohol brands are in the game. Your largest beer players, your largest wine players, Gallo, and your largest distilled spirit players are all in the game. And that's both good and bad. I don't talk about why it's bad a little bit, but it really put it in the forefront of our mind. And people started asking for it. People started, got a hard seltzer, got a hard seltzer. And it's inexpensive to make, it's relatively easy to produce, and quick to market. and your supply chain is completely different than if you're making a product with barley or wheat or distilling or things of that nature. It's much, much quicker to market and easier supply chain. And you get a good label, a good name, get some good flavor, out it goes. System, another way to look at the numbers. That's White Claw on the top line. Is White Claw losing a little steam? We'll see. If we look at last year's Super Bowl, what did AB InBev advertise? They did not advertise Budweiser. They had the one Clydesdale ad, but they also advertised our hard seltzer. Where things have come full circle, what do they call it? Bud Light Hard Seltzer Cola. That's right, hard seltzer soda cola. That's not a mouthful. Why? Because it's a flavor game. How do you get a new flavor to the marketplace? That's where things are going. So, there was some research with two other individuals. Adam Carmen's at University of South Florida, Frederick, East Stroudsburg University, so Pennsylvania. And we decided to do research on hard seltzer. There's tons of data on hard seltzer. It is not in the general public. Trust me, AB InBev, they've done their focus groups, they've lined people up, they've dialed it in, they look at the sales numbers, but you'll never see the light of the day. So we decided, let's do a little research. Why? Nobody else has done it. In the educational world, you look at things that nobody else looked at. I guess I consider myself a hard seltzer expert because, like, I'm one of the few people that actually look at this stuff. Kind of, maybe. I don't know. It's scary. But yeah, that's why we decided to look at it. So we had 700 survey responses, almost 700 survey responses. So in the survey world, in the education world, you send it out and then you clean it up. We actually had, I don't know, 800 responses, but we took out some and didn't fill it out completely or other things. Because you want to try to find a good data set. That's the whole goal, so you kick out some. So we had almost 700 responses. 44 different states. California, Texas were at the top end, Florida was up there, but we had response from 44 states. Because we wanted to see, did we get a good overall sample pool from across the United States? Wide range of demographics, male versus female, 56, 44. Age groups, 21 to 60 plus. The bulk of the respondents were 25 to 40. We found the bulk of the respondents, but you can guess we found out at either end. One of the respondents that we threw out is because they were under 21. Lie. So we threw that one out. So we feel that we have a good data set. And that's what we're looking for is, are we asking the right questions and do we have a good data set? We have data set for education level, salary level, wide range of different ways we want to look at to start to see can we correlate any or synthesize any hypothesis on why people are drinking hard seltzer. So these are some of the questions that we asked. Is alcoholic seltzer a masculine or feminine drink? Because products have kind of sit in the middle. Depends on your ask, it really isn't. One reason why hard seltzer is popular is it has no gender identity as a product. But historically, we marketed beer for men, wine coolers were for women. It has no gender identity. It's for anybody and everybody. Part of that's because of social media. Part of it is it didn't have the whole old hangovers from products of years past. We've shifted the mindset of beer in a lot of ways, but there's still a huge chunk of, unfortunately, of the population that thinks that beer is from men. Which obviously not true. And that's why men's side more masculine and female side more feminine. Gender neutral, no identity whatsoever. So that makes consumers feel comfortable buying a product no matter who they are. Another interesting thing. Home or with home of a friend most often. one of the reasons why I think hard seltzers theorized is timing is a beautiful thing. One of the few nice things about COVID was hard seltzer. Because we changed where we started buying. Restaurants, bars closed. We also started limiting on where we purchased items. So since hard seltzer was available in a lot of grocery stores, we panic bought. We didn't necessarily go to a bottle shop or a liquor store to buy other products. We're like, oh great, it's here. Okay, let me get my toilet paper and my hard seltzer, I'm good. And of course, with bars and restaurants being closed, we weren't buying it there. Interesting enough, it'll be interesting to see now that things hopefully finally getting back into some normal routine, and people going out more and more. Hard seltzer is not gotten traction in restaurants and bars. I asked a friend in Las Vegas, I'm like, is hard seltzer big in Las Vegas? He's like, no, not really. I asked him why, because he's like, that's what you do at home. When you go out in Vegas, you trade up. You don't drink hard seltzer. You get your $700 bottle of vodka at the club, not hard seltzer. And this is where a lot of people consider they drink it at home. They don't drink it out. We asked about at sporting events, not big traction at sporting events or concerts, not big traction in bars and restaurants. You see it out there, but even still today, you see it being offered, but not getting a lot of traction. Don't see it on tap that often either from the larger companies. This is separate from tap rooms or small craft breweries who are making them themselves. I'm talking about in chain restaurants and larger institutions. So we drink it at home. I mentioned before about the health benefits. Our respondents, that was on the lower end of the scale. I was shocked when we got these numbers. That's why we do research. You would think that people gravitating to hard seltzer for health benefits or perceive what's called the halo effect, would perceive being healthier. Respondents like, no. Gluten-free, yeah, it's nice. Low in sugar, yeah, that's okay. Other antioxidant terms, yeah, it's nice. So we're not being gravitated towards it because of what we perceive as being a healthier product. Celebrity endorsements, not gaining traction. So Travis Scott had one, moved after Houston. Gordon Ramsay has a hard seltzer. That's out of the marketplace. Why are we buying hard seltzer? Same reason why we buy a lot of products. Flavor, 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 and convenience. Flavor and convenience. Which goes back to the days of the flavored vodka craze 15 years ago. There's a new flavored vodka every single day of the week. Went from lemon to orange, we started dividing up to mandarin, to this, to that, and then we had fruit loop vodka, we had pickle vodka, because we had to keep things fresh, and we kept things fresh by adding new flavors. And you're starting to see that in the hard seltzer, hence why 6 months, AB InBev, Bud Light will have a new flavor. Yeah, I don't think it would be 6 months. I think they'll have a new flavor launch about 3 months, maybe right before July 4th. Just to give you another statistic we found and how big it is. So July 4th weekend, last July 4th weekend, here in the United States, we drank more White Claw and all the White Claw flavors, so the White Claw Flammy, than we did Budweiser. Drank more White Claw than Budweiser on July 4th weekend. That is like crazy. Who would ever think that? Of course, Budweiser has been declining in sales for years now. It's really struggling with sales. It's still, what is it, number 4, number 5 on the list on the most consumed beers in the United States. But we drank more White Claw than we did. And I would not be surprised if it happens again this summer. So we're drinking for flavor and convenience. We're drinking it because it's a social beverage. It is something that we can sit and relax with our friends at home, by the pool, or by the beach or the lake or whatever it is, and relax. And not necessarily in bars and restaurants. Definitely not in nightclubs. We also one of the things we looked at is we wanted to look at nationally how brands track. because I like to see how craft beverages track. The big brands dominated. For the craft brands, you had DC Brown on the list, out of Washington, D.C. Can't remember what other craft brands we had on the list, but we had a couple on the list just to see if they got traction, and it is dominated by the large brands, which is an opportunity. It's a huge opportunity, more than a threat in the marketplace, and I'll talk about that in just a couple slides. So my nephew, so this is what my nephew said. My nephew's like 12, 13. And he said this, and he's correct. There's a huge segment of the population that really doesn't care what they're drinking, as long as it fits their lifestyle, where they're at, and what they're doing. They don't care about brand, they don't care about alcohol type, hence why nobody really knows what a hard seltzer is, and they don't know if it's sugar-based, malt-based, or grape-based. They don't care. It's about the flavor, it's about the beans, it's about hanging out with their friends. They just flat out don't care. It's convenience. They can get it at a grocery store. It gets good product placement, things of that nature. And it's at a good price point. It's at a good price point. I'm afraid my nephew's going to be doing it in 10 years, but anyway, there's definitely some truth, which is true for society. Do you think the people drinking malt don't care what was in it? Do you think people drinking champagne were like really excited to use champagne yeast? They didn't care. It was the advertising market. It was, I'm living large, but I'm drinking on a beer budget. So Bartles and James wine coolers, Zima. People like, oh, Zima, it has the greatest technology for filtration in it. It's never been utilized by patent number XYZ12. Nah, I didn't care. It's like, yeah, Zima, okay. Something different. So society-wise, we've been like that. We are, and we all do that with a lot of different purchasing habits in a lot of different arenas, where we just don't care. Sometimes I do care, but a lot of times I don't care. And you definitely see that in the hard seltzer industry. And now, things I know become big when, and that's where we're at. This is Saturday Night Live not too long ago. Making it again, when things start popping up on Saturday Night Live in parody, you know it's part of culture. The only way people get the joke is if they can relate to the skit itself. So you know it's deeply ingrained in popular culture because we are drinking it. We are drinking it in mass quantities. There's been clouds out there where people have said, oh my gosh, about 6 months ago, actually they took a huge, Boston Beer took a huge hit on their stock. Their stock at one point in time was trading above 1,000 a share. 1,000 a share is a lot. Give you context, I think Ford is trading at $40 a share. It's dropped, the last time I checked, it's like $500-600 a share. Because of people like, is the hard seltzer craze coming to an end? I make the argument that it's mature. There's absolutely no way any product at any given point in time could have 100% growth, 75% growth, 150% growth year after year after year. It just cannot happen. And that's where percentages can be a funny thing. Percentages can be a funny thing because you can show 200% growth. If you start at 0, anything above that is growth. So if I go from 100 to 500, I'm showing really great high percentage growth, but it's still within context. So now you're starting to hear people say, oh, the growth is not as strong. Yeah, it can't. The market is flooded. Go to a grocery store. How many different products are they taking up shelf space? The other way to look at products is how much physical shelf space a product is taking up, or product category is taking up, will give you a good glimpse on how consumers are purchasing products. So, my future predictions. I like making predictions. Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. What are we tonight? I have some predictions. There's going to be winners and losers. There's too much money by two larger companies in the space. Somebody's going to shake it. And I'm talking about Coors, AB InBev, Constellation, Diageo, the wine companies. There's going to be winners and losers. And you're going to see a lot of press of people like, oh my gosh, they pulled out the hard seltzer. It must be coming to, oh my gosh, they pulled out. It's just too big of money in it. It's a flavor arms race. It is a flavor arms race. And it's being driven by consumers looking for something new. They're looking for a new flavor. They're looking for something exciting. They're looking for different. Now, this is where I think it is great for the craft industry. Let the big boys fight it out. Let them go head to head. Don't even get in that space. We all know it's hard enough getting mass distribution of a beer product across state lines or regional or national. You all know how hard that is. Let them fight out the hard seltzer space. Because someone is going to lose. But don't let that make you think that the world's coming to an end. Because one of the other things that people look at, how do they trade up? They're exposed to the product. How do they get something unique, exciting, different? They know who's making it. It's down the street from them. That's the space that I think there's a lot of room to grow. Plus, it's cheap to produce and turn around quickly, etc. Trying to take a seltzer now, a national brand, it's possible. There's also pink flying unicorns out there, but you can do it. That's why if you can tell a story, and give some uniqueness and put something behind it, consumers will gravitate to it. If you look at Gen Zs and millennials, hence why Facebook is dead to them. Students, they don't even know how to use Facebook. It is dead to them. Instagram, TikTok. They can tell a story. They can differentiate them from others. That's why they're gravitating towards that. I have students who do not know how to use a phone. I literally had to show a student how to use a phone. Ask them to do a TikTok or Instagram story, take them 2 seconds. How we look at alcohol, how we perceive alcohol is changing. And every market we choose. Right? We're not going to have exponential growth. We just physically can't. Alcohol consumption at the high school levels are at the lowest levels it's ever been. As a society, we're consuming less alcohol in general, and it's been tailing off for years now. The peak, I think, was at 72. It's been tailing off since then. Drink a lot less alcohol for multiple different reasons. And that's why I'm bullish and bearish in the hard seltzer market. People, how can you be bullish and bearish? Hard seltzer's not going away. However, it's going to mature. I think for the large companies, it's going to be less consumption, but you can still create meaningful engagement with the consumer on a smaller scale. And that's what that's the don't try to. And that's why I think I'm bullish and bearish is where, again, Mike's Hart, the root beer, 95's root beer, used to drop it by the pallets. I mean, you might remember this in grocery stores. Now it gets one slot. I think hard seltzer is going to be incredibly strong this summer, particularly as things get back to normal. But it'll be interesting to see tailing off through the summer, and also we go from drinking at home to drinking in bars and restaurants, where hard seltzer has had challenges to penetrate. We have the questions, different ads, the QR code me on LinkedIn. Something else I learned from my students, the QR code a lot. Because they don't want to write, they don't write anymore. They take pictures, they QR code stuff. So, questions? I think I ended up on time. Woo, 5 minutes left. Any thoughts about hard seltzer? It's scary in any way?
Okay, so what's the next step? What's the next step?
What is next? I think you are going to, one, it depends on, there's a report launched by the federal government about how to streamline regulations and laws in the alcohol industry. Recommend reading it. It's like 7 pages of joy. One of the things in there is talk again about mandatory listing of ingredients in alcoholic beverages. That's been floating around for a while. I think that can be both good and bad. The good thing is now we start to highlight certain ingredients for that halo health effect. I think millennials and Gen Zs look at things in 2 spectrums. They want something cheap, so they're drinking Natty Ice. They're drinking. But they also want for the experience of on Instagram. They don't put ambiance on Instagram. They put something unique and different. Which you're starting to see that in the beer industry, where even 24-year-olds are trading up for how much they'll spend on a beer product. My students will pay $20 for a beer if they feel that it's a great experience. That's what I think is nice. Is how do you create a premiumized experience for the consumer? It's something unique and different. That's so yes. I look at TTB code. I look at newspapers. There's not a lot of articles on hard seltzer out there. I've probably read them all. But I look at other sort of things like there was research done on people's perception of clear beverages and the positive effect that clear beverages have on the consumer. They perceive it as being pure, which ties into hard seltzer, which is what Zeno was. But yeah, that's all I'm very excited. And I'm happy to share any of these articles. Just hit me up. That's where I do a lot of my research from. Pop culture. Any final thoughts or questions? I can tell my students I did okay. Then I did